Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Katrina Sargent, owner and creator of Devil Doll Custom Creations. Today we're going to be doing a book page and a house colors Harry Potter pen. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. Like always, I'll have everything in the description below. If you haven't already went and watched my basic epoxy pen tutorial and basic CrystaLac tutorial, please go watch them now. I kind of breeze through a few steps along the way. First, you're going to do a prepped pen and then spray paint your house colors, just the bottom section. You don't need to do the top. I do the very top like this. I don't know why I didn't do this in the video. I am sorry. This just makes glittering easier. If you are still using pencils in your pens, put a little bit of Vaseline on them before you put them in your pen. So I break it up in compartments. I first glitter the bottom section in my two house colors of my choice. And then I do my book pages, and then I add the glitter on the top section. I prefer CrystaLac glitter glue, but you can use any glue you want. You can even epoxy this if you would like. So I just add a little glue, brush it on, and then I ombre the two colors. I start on my top color and I do full coverage on that top section and angle my pen a little bit so the glitter cascades onto the middle section where the two colors meet. I do the exact same thing on the bottom side. So then the middle has part the top color, part the bottom color. This is how I ombre. If you do a different way, do it your preferred method. So the funny thing is about this house, the movie and the book have different colors. One is blue and copper, and then one is blue and silver. I'm not sure why they changed it from the book to the movie, but if you prefer the movie versus the book, you're going to do blue and silver versus blue and copper. That's more the book colors. I do it the exact same way as I did the previous ones. So I forgot to do this in the video. I always roll my glitter pens in parchment paper or wax paper after the glitter is dry, just to get the glitter to lay flat. This will help you from doing more coats of epoxy or Brite Tone. And then once your glitter glue is dry, you're going to epoxy or Brite Tone until smooth. Do not move on to sanding until your glitter is covered. If you sand over rough spots of glitter, it will remove the color off your glitter. I like fine grit sanding blocks, but you can use whatever sandpaper you'd like. You need to trim off any extra you have on that bottom edge. So I just take a sharp craft knife and run it along that edge to get any glitter or Brite Tone or epoxy you could have on that edge off each time I take it off my turner. And then I like to run it along that sanding block around the edges just to get a nice smooth edge before I move on to the next step. You can run your craft knife inside if you've gotten anything inside your pen. This is the time to do it. Don't wait for it to fully cure. It'll be way harder to get it out then. And then you can set those aside for now. We're moving on to the book pages part. I prefer to use a candle, but you don't have to. You can just use a lighter. You need a piece of tin foil, so in case the flame gets too big. I prefer using official books. You can use cardstock if you would like. I've already cut out some pages, and I have cut out the titles or chapters and have them in a separate pile. That's what we're going to wrap our pen with. So you don't need the full page. I only have about 2 to 3 inches of each page. Then you're going to cut off any extra along the sides. Then you're going to cut them in half. You don't need this much page for these little pens. And then we're going to keep about half of these not burned. You're going to then lay them on the pen. I make sure all the words are facing the same direction so you can read the words on your pen. The other half, we will burn the edges and put on the top edge, the bottom edge, and then that quote or chapter wrapped around. You don't have to have all of them burned. This saves time. You can use whatever glue of choice to attach the book pages onto your pens. You're going to then add a little bit on an edge, put it on the pen, make sure it's smooth. If you get too much glue onto these pages, they will rip, they will wrinkle. So you don't need much glue at all. So just put a little bit on your brush and then brush the back of the pages. And then once you have it on, then I add the glue to the rest of the page and fold it over with my hands. I found this keeps the wrinkling at a minimum. You will still have wrinkling, you will still have issues with the pages if you add too much glue. And then once I'm happy with where that's placed, if I have any places I need to re-glue, do it this time. I then overlap that page with another page. On the bottoms, usually a little smaller page. This is just to make sure I cover into that glitter, because we didn't glitter the entire pen, so you just need to make sure you cover that edge. You can also just do a bigger piece of paper and glue that around instead of doing 2 individual pieces. You're going to do the exact same thing though. Add a little bit to an edge, make sure that edge is fully attached, and then you're going to glitter the rest of the page and roll it around the pen. And then you're going to set these off to the side to let the glitter glue or whatever glue you use to dry. Moving on to the burned sections. So I only burn enough to do the bottom edge and the top edge, and then the quote that wraps around this. Take your time with this, go slow. It's easier to go slow than it is to burn up too many pages. Believe me, I've done it. If it gets really carried away, you're going to need to drop it into your tinfoil and pat it with your tinfoil. You're going to get ash on your craft space. Unfortunately, make sure you don't set off any smoke alarms. You don't necessarily need to do the entire 4 sides. one side can stay unburned since you're going to be wrapping it around. I will show you here in a minute what I'm meaning. If your side that is burned is smaller than the side that is not burned, it will show though. So if you're worried about that, you can just burn all 4 sides. When I'm doing the chapter or quote or saying that I'm going to wrap around the pin, and then you're going to take those burned pages and add it to a dried pin. I only wrap the top edge and then the very bottom edge because the middle doesn't really show anything when you wrap it with the quote. You're going to glue it on exactly how you did the non-burned pages. You see how that edge is not burned. I lay that first and then I overlap the burned book pages over that non-burned part. This just saves a little bit of time, but like I said, if you're worried about it not covering fully, burn all 4 sides. And then when it's time for my quote, I like to wrap it around the pen before I add any glue just to get a sense of where it will wrap. And then I keep it on that pen once I unfold it, glue the top part, make sure it's attached, and then glue the rest as I go along. If you have any overhang over that top, I kind of just bunch it up to the top and make sure it's glued down. You will trim this off once it hardens up. After you seal it a couple times, you won't even know you folded it into itself. And then set this off to dry for at least 30-40 minutes before you start adding the Mod Podge on top to seal the papers. I like to go one direction at a time. I like to go vertical this first part just to make sure I get all those edges completely sealed in under Mod Podge. You can also use CC DIY Quick Coat for this. Any kind of sealant you want, and then once that dries 30-40 minutes, then I go through the opposite direction. So then I go horizontal around. You're just trying to make sure those pages are sealed before you move on to Brite Tone or epoxy. If you don't do this step or you rush it, the pages will soak up the epoxy or Brite Tone. They will become translucent. They look wet. So you just need to make sure those are completely sealed before you move on to the next step. I do probably 4 coats and they have to dry between coats. So this kind of is a long process, unfortunately, but it's better than trying to fix a mistake if you don't do this well enough. So I go vertical, let it dry, horizontal, let it dry, vertical, let it dry, horizontal, let it dry. Then once it dries, you can move on to epoxy or Brite Tone. And then once they are fully dry, I then trim up any that I folded over the top. I just take a very sharp craft knife and I cut away the extra. And then once that's done, I then add the top color of glitter to kind of ombre it onto the book pages. You don't have to do this step. You can leave it just book pages. I like to glue the entire book pages and then cascade my glitter onto the top over the book pages. It just gives a very, very pretty ombre over the book pages itself. If you don't like that idea that the glitter can fall onto your book pages where you're not in control of it, just glitter that very, very top section. And then once that's dry, I seal them so that glitter does not cascade further into my book pages. So I like to use E6000. You can spray it on. I use a little container and a fan brush just to dab on this sealant over the glitter on the top section. If you do this, you need to make sure you wash your brush off between glitter colors because it will come off on your brush. And then epoxy or Brite Tone until glass smooth If you want to add a decal, add it before your last couple coats. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments. I do write back. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you are notified anytime I post new videos. I have a very small Facebook group, facebook.com, Double Doll Community. You can ask me questions there. You can show off your work. And again, thank you everyone for your continued support.